Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday Western U.S. regional forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, while much of the attention in terms of what was going on in the weather was given to Hurricane Dorian there, which you can see on the East Coast hitting parts of North and South Carolina, producing some very strong winds, a lot of flooding rains, and even 14 separate reports of tornadoes on the northern side of it. Take a look at the flow out west. We actually had quite a bit of thunderstorm activity yesterday, curling around a broader upper level ridge that is spinning out in the western part of the United States. And some of these storms put down quite a bit of heavy rainfall and a lot of lightning. Now, in the mix with all of these storms, take a look at what we saw here in Northern California. Zoomed in here with our high resolution geostationary satellites, we can see some of the fires here going in parts of Northern California. And some of these fires here quite powerful and at this particular time uncontrolled. Even saw a few little pyrocumulus clouds. That's the little white tops you see coming off the top of these smoke plumes. Those are clouds actually building on it. So with that, just to let you know, the National Weather Service has got out today a large area here where they have what are called red flag warnings, stronger winds, drier conditions, the risk for fire is high. If we just take a look at our next 18 hours in terms of the forecast for where we're going to have a large amount of smoke in the atmosphere, you can see pretty clearly the regions we are watching across the northwest and through parts of California for fire. And I'll tell you, yesterday I was flying from Chicago here over toward Omaha on this path, and as I flew through and saw the sun set behind this smoke in through here that was in western Nebraska at that time, it was actually pretty amazing to see here. It got very hazy and a very, very red sunset. So we often know in the midsection of the country when the west is burning because our sunsets are vividly red. So you can see throughout the region here several locations that we're dealing with some lower air quality issues because of some of the smoke from a few of the fires. Now, take a look at this animation. This is the last 24 hours looking at lightning strikes. So I told you some of the storms were quite powerful. If you were not under one of them, take a look at how much lightning came out of some of these. There it is. This is them blowing up on the heat of the afternoon. So some very local heavy downpours and a lot of lightning strikes. And we get concerned about lightning this time of year, especially with our drier thunderstorms, because they do start a lot of these fires. Now, if we take a look at total rainfall over the last couple of days, locally under some of these storms, you can see we put down 2+ inches in some places, but a lot of folks missed out on some of this rainfall. But that kind of just shows us where we start our forecast, because in the coming days, we have an interesting pattern setting up such that I think we're going to continue to see more thunderstorm activity, at least over the next few days. The Pacific Ocean's kind of giving me the biggest clue on this. Just kind of take a look. Now, the flow is quite wavy, but overall, it is unblocked. So there's the primary branch of the jet stream. We have one shortwave that just moved through here. And look at the flow coming out of, well, almost Hawaii here. Now, if you were to show me this animation and it was middle of winter, I would expect to see just an enormous amount of water that's coming out, water vapor, coming out of what we call the Pineapple Express, just slamming into the Pacific Northwest. And a deep trough like this would produce a substantially deep low off the coast. But given that it's still late summer, well, it's not quite got the strongest upper level dynamics. These broader ridges sitting here and there and over here, these are helping to keep the jet stream lively and to the north, and it's going to be an interesting setup in the coming days here, especially for the Pacific Northwest. So take a look. This is what we're watching early in the morning here on Friday in terms of our precipitable water content. So you can see how far above average we are right now in the western United States. So this is the moisture that is fueling those storms. Some of that's coming off of the remnants of once Hurricane Juliet here. You can see the moisture extending here into Southern California and around our next low pressure system sitting off the coast. A lot of high humidity air here with some drier air on the backside. And it's going to be this storm system we're going to be watching over the coming days as it presses here toward the Pacific Northwest. So to put it all together, just looking out through the next 9 days, this is from the National Blended Model. So we're putting together the European, the GFS, and a lot of other models run in the United States. They're picking up on a very active storm track through the northern United States and southern Canada. And that storm track is begun out in the Pacific. and it's going to be drawing on quite a bit of moisture into those areas. And so we're going to see the storm track really hitting hard parts of the Pacific Northwest in the next couple of days. But as is normal, much of California and the desert Southwest missing out on this. But it's the dry season, so we would expect that. So take a look at your next 60 hours here. So this begins pretty early in the morning on Friday and just carries you through Sunday midday. And we notice here as we just kind of play this again, let's just pause it right there. You see that throughout the day on Friday, we're watching a large area of showers and storms building into parts of eastern Oregon, Washington, much of Idaho, then getting into Montana. So then you see, look, on the heat of the afternoon, look at all the storms popping here across the Intermountain West, all right? But this particular storm system gets into Montana, produces a broad shield of rain on its main warm frontal boundary, which will be sitting here, and this is going to keep this area very, very wet throughout the afternoon and evening hours on Friday into Saturday morning. Now, at this point, as that goes through, our next system is starting to show up, that one I just showed you a moment ago, starting to show up here Saturday evening, getting into early Sunday morning along the west coast. So now you can start to see the heavier rains from that system moving through parts of Oregon and Washington. Again, this is early in the morning on Sunday, all right? So we have an active next couple of days here with two big systems kind of hitting the coast. Now, to kind of show you one of our longer range models, I'm going to back out and we're looking here over the next 10 days or so. Now let's just stop and look at this again. So this again is getting us through the day on Friday. Widely scattered showers and storms getting more organized around a low pressure system developing in parts of Montana and Wyoming. So you can see it right there. There's all the heavier rain, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. System number 2 is lurking kind of right off the coast. Here we go. This is now getting into Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, evening, into Monday. So you see it forming there. So look at this. I'll just step you back. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. This is our next low pressure system coming on shore, bringing in a lot of unsettled weather to the western United States, and it sweeps on through right here. Now, after this one gets through by early next week, we see things do try to calm down for much of the west coast as a broader ridge builds back into this area. But that's going to break down again as the next wave, see it coming in here, comes in next weekend. So we're watching several systems moving through that kind of unblocked flow of the Pacific. And it's something we need to keep an eye on, bringing us some very late summer precipitation here. Putting it all together over the next 15 days, there's that storm track, okay? We can see it pretty clearly right in through here as our wettest corridor, as we're watching these systems coming out of the Gulf of Alaska, kind of slamming into the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia, and then really getting invigorated as they go over the mountains and taking off in this direction. So very active next 15 days or so as forecast by our global models here. Now, to show you what temperatures are going to do in response to this, I want to show you the flow of the atmosphere here in terms of troughs and ridges. And what I notice here is that the whole system is moving quite regularly. I don't see any major dominant blocking features setting up. So what am I talking about? Well, we start off with this broader ridge right in through this area. So this is what's going to keep the temperatures up. This is what keeps our flow doing this as this first trough sneaks in. That's the one that's bringing in the storms on Friday into Saturday morning. So it sneaks in right through there. Storm system number 2, remember the one that comes in Saturday, Sunday, is right in through here, and this one really works to knock the temperatures down. Now you see that by Sunday into Monday, a much broader a much broader trough builds into this area, and that is what's going to knock our temperatures back for much of our weekend and early next week. And it hangs around for a few days next week. Now we see the Pacific loading back up again. So whenever you see a low over a high, see that low over high, not high over low, low over high, the jet stream winds scream in between it, so right in through here. So I told you the Pacific is not blocked up, the winds are fast. And what that's going to do is that's going to keep the whole thing moving, and that builds a temporary ridge here next to end of next week, beginning of next weekend. But watch, after that ridge breaks down, another big trough slides into place. So we really see this up, down pattern over the coming days. So in the near term, watch what it does to our temperatures. We're going to play here the National Digital Forecast Database. Sorry, let me play that for you again. These are our high temperature departure from normal on Friday. Watch what happens as the first trough moves in. There it is. This is now Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So what do we notice here? Come back again, warm today on Friday, but the cooler weather comes in after Saturday along the coast here. It starts on the coast Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So that is the first big cool down that we're going to see as this first trough sweeps in here. All right. Broader picture, over the next 5 days, where we start off warm, but then we see that trough sneaking in, so the cooler anomalies are showing up along the west coast. By the time we get into days 6 through 10, the overall flow pattern is doing something a bit more like this with the ridge over the southern states here, and so we go back to more seasonable weather. But you notice that as we got out to the 11 to 15 day forecast, we were then watching for the deeper trough to be sitting right in through here. So out ahead of it, some warmth, but this will eventually move on shore, giving us the continuation of our kind of up-down pattern in terms of temperatures here. What it isn't is it's not sustained extreme heat, which we sometimes get at the end of the summer, at the beginning of September across the western United States. So this is a much different pattern than climatologically we would say would be normal. Now, in addition to this, we've got some long-range guidance that just came out, so I'm just going to let you know something I'll be studying quite a bit over the coming days and weeks. And what I want to do is I want to draw it for you here as we look out toward November, December, and January. So we've just got some brand new long-range update information from the European model. Now, for that time period, it's suggesting a very active Pacific jet stream that tends to favor something a bit more like this. Now, if you're going, wait a minute, didn't we see that a lot last winter, and didn't we see that a lot this this spring? The answer is yes. And what that did was that tended to tuck quite a bit of cold air into this region, a lot of very warm air down here, and in between a very, very active storm track where I'm kind of drawing in through green here. Now, this particular pattern, we have to be on the lookout for a pattern like this because it could be one that could, please understand when I just, take this with a grain of salt. This could favor a bit of a drier, pattern here along the western United States at times, but I'm not set on that just yet. And the good news is going into this winter season, or this late summer, into fall and then eventually winter, our drought picture across the western United States is looking way better than it has in years past. So it's what we're going to have to be studying and trying to understand if this is the true setup for maybe early winter this year. Major factors would be the very weak INSO-neutral, practically early La Nina phase of the ocean we have in the Central Pacific, and the very warm conditions we have in the North Pacific. But I at least want to give you some sort of preliminary outlook as to what I'm thinking about for early and midwinter. Okay, so with that, I think I'll go and wrap up my Western Region forecast video. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. Prepare for some cooler weather to be arriving and some stormy weather in the Northwest, but we'll talk to you again next week. Thank you.